For this project, you'll need an outer fabric, fabric for the lining, fabric for your bow accent, a zipper, and this pattern, which is available as a free download on my website, which I will link in the description. Once you've printed and cut out your pattern, begin by cutting out 2 outside pieces of fabric using that pattern. Fold your fabric in half and place on the fold where indicated on the pattern. Pin down and then cut. Once you've done this twice, you'll have 2 outside pieces, and then you can begin cutting your lining pieces. Again, you will need 2 of these, and they will be identical to the outside pieces. And now for the bow, which will be self-lined, you will cut out a rectangle measuring about 5 by 10 inches. Now fold your rectangle in half with the right sides facing. Stitch around the edge using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving an opening at the middle, about 2 inches wide or so. It should look like this. Then you'll want to clip your corners, being careful to not clip through the stitching so that when you turn your bow right side out, your corners are more crisp. Now you can turn your rectangle right side out and then carefully use either a pin or some other object like a knitting needle to push or pull your corners out. Then press your rectangle so that the edges are neat. Now you can cut out a small rectangle about 2 by 3 inches for the middle of the bow. To gather the middle of your bow, take a threaded needle and baste through the center of the rectangle lengthwise. Now take the center piece of the bow and fold it over once lengthwise and over itself again so that the raw edges are in the center. Now you can stitch that to the center of the gathered up bow, fold it over, and stitch the edge securely at the back. Before we stitch the pouch together, you'll want to find the center area where you would like to attach your bow and stitch it on by hand. You may want to stitch around the edge of the center accent piece several times to make sure that it is secure. Once your bow is attached, lay your outer piece right side up and then place your other outer piece so that the right sides are together, and then use a basting stitch to stitch across the top with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Once you've basted across the top, lay it so that the seam side is up and press your seam open. Once that seam is nice and flat, take your zipper and lay it right side down over the seam. Then stitch your zipper down to the pouch, being careful to not sew over the zipper opening. And it should look like this. Now you'll want to take a seam ripper and unseam the middle seam that you basted originally. Once you've removed that middle seam, you'll want to open your zipper up and leave it open for the rest of this project. With your zipper still open, fold your outer piece so that the right sides are together and stitch along the sides and bottom. After you stitch the sides and bottom, bring the corners together along the raw edge and stitch across that raw edge. Now you're going to want to stitch the curved top edge to the straight top edge to that corner point, and then pivot at the corner and stitch straight across. Repeat this with all 4 corners. Your pouch should now look something like this. And at this point you can turn it right side out and set it aside to begin working on your lining. To create the lining, basically you will repeat the steps from the outside of the pouch with the exception of the zipper at the top. So you would first sew the sides and bottom, the bottom corners, and then the rounded edge at the top. After finishing your lining, place it inside of the outer fabric. The wrong sides of each fabric, or the seam sides, should be touching. Once your lining is inside, you can also turn it inside out so that it is easier to stitch around. Now align the edges of your outer piece and your lining piece, folding in the raw edge of the lining piece. Taking a needle and thread, hand stitch carefully around the edge, starting at one end. Anchor your thread and use a ladder stitch. That is, pick up a bit of your lining fabric with the needle, pull it through, pick up a bit of the zipper fabric, and continue alternating all around. Once you're finished securing the lining to the outside of the fabric, you can turn your piece right side out again and press all of the edges. Now enjoy your handmade zipper bag with lining, square bottom, and delightful bow accent. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more handmade goodness and check out some of my other videos. I also do a podcast each week and have a blog with free patterns and tutorials at mothandrustdiy.com.